This is going to mostly be a test of endurance.
You need
so
New York. Are we on there?
Yeah, we're both there.
These bar stools are put together backwards, right? Like our feet are
Our feet should be on there.
That's incorrect. Is there?
Nope, they're backwards. Just gonna stay that way. Shit. Down. Yes. So slightly. There we go.
All right.
Okay. So, first things first. I guess the first thing we should talk about are what we're doing. We should do some kind of introduction.
Yeah, 100%.
We should brainstorm the name for this thing.
I was gonna say, should we start with our own names, the provens, the correct names? You are.
Yeah. I've already forgot my own name. No. Okay. So before we do that, let's talk about real quick what we think this podcast is going to be.
Yeah, 100%. I wrote it down. Here are my premises for the show. One, real estate. Well, we're both in real estate, so I think obviously there should be some touches and highlights of real estate, and maybe some like mailbag question answering from new agents, from experienced agents. So,
did you say mailbag?
Mailbag. I'm from Minnesota. Yeah, that's how I say it, dude. Mailbag.
Okay.
So,
mailbag.
we're gonna get
it's gonna be called the mailbag.
Mailbag. Which leads me into my next point is getting to know one another, because we're fairly, in general, unfamiliar with one another. We've worked together, I guess, technically for 2 years, but really only known each other for what?
A couple of weeks.
Really?
We met for coffee once and decided this would be a good partnership.
Yeah, I think I probably found out about you obviously via like ALC, via the Agent Leadership Council here at the office, and then I sent you like a potential commercial referral. I think that's the first time we ever talked. And then we've been getting each other the last 2
knew
weeks.
you through Facebook because you're a big Facebooker, but I was like, I don't know who this guy is. I didn't even know you were at our office. I was like, but I like what he's doing. You had really good stuff, and you have a way about your comments on Facebook.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really funny and really genuine. And then I saw you at ALC, and I was like, oh wait, Zach is in our office.
He's in our office. He's on our ALC.
I was like, maybe we should recruit him for KWC.
Yeah. So I'm super sarcastic too for the viewers. I don't know why I'm looking at the phone when the camera's right there, but I'm super sarcastic, and it's really, I guess, tough to remember that sometimes, because I'll say something that I think is freaking hilarious, and everybody's just like nodding their head like I'm so serious, and it drives me nuts. It's like, these people don't know me too.
They don't know you.
So real estate, getting to know each other. I got some other good stuff. I think we should highlight local product.
Sure.
We were in a pinch for the first shooting of the podcast, so I got some of my favorite local beer from Blanco, Texas. Do you say Blanco or Blanco?
It's definitely Blanco.
It is Blanco?
Yeah, so the thing about Texas that I don't know, how long have you lived in Texas?
Long enough that I should know, but I think about 13 years.
So all of the Spanish words north of San Antonio are pronounced with non-Spanish accents. So
say that again. All the Spanish words north of San Antonio, so like Bernie and Blanco.
So everything south of San Antonio, you have a Spanish accent on it. So you have like Corpus Christi, for instance.
Okay.
It has a little more. Whereas like Blanco is like as white as you can see.
Very gringo way to say it.
If you go to Austin, they don't call Guadalupe Street Guadalupe. It's Guadalupe.
Okay.
So like north of San Antonio is the beginning of like whiteifying.
Very interesting. That's the cutoff.
Like south of San Antonio, like San Jacinto.
Yeah.
You know,
dude, that's so interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah, it's not real. I mean, it's not like a real thing. It's just like when you pronounce words like bandera instead of bandera.
Right.
You know, like that's north of San Antonio, so it's bandera.
Very interesting. Yeah, I never knew that. So today's featured local product is ice cold beer from Blanco, Texas.
Yep.
Great stuff. This is Devil's Backbone. I don't know that we're legally allowed to highlight products. We might have to cut this. We'll have to.
Definitely allowed to. Until we get sponsorships, and then we'll have to just, if Real sponsors us, great. That's all we'll drink from here on out.
For sure. So we're just plugging this product for free right now. And then there's one other big thing I want to do. I want to do a feel-good story / famous friends segment where we highlight either a cool story going on in the community, local, or one of our friends. Just give a shout out to one of our personal friends that we know, love, and give a shout out.
Well, I think when this podcast ultimately blows up and we're bigger than Joe Rogan.
But obviously we got the hairlines for it, for sure.
We could just be... we'll bring in guests, I think, that are part of our business. I've always wanted to, because especially being in the commercial real estate industry, I meet so many people who run so many interesting businesses. They're funny people, they're real people, and you don't even know behind the scenes what they've gone through in their business. And I know a lot of like really great local guys who have grown huge companies that you should hear the stories of them sleeping in their car while they were building this thing. And like it's been awesome. I mean, some of my clients own like fantastic bars that people have been through, and restaurants and AC companies and pool companies, and I've always wanted to have a platform to bring those people in and just hear their side of the story.
Totally agree.
There's a lot of overlap between building a business in real estate and pretty much any other sector. It's just a different industry. It's a different way of getting paid, and like what we do is different, but it's still the same struggles when you
Totally agree. And I guess I'm just big on that too. Pretty much nail on the head what you just said. Like, I think there's so many weird connections that we miss on a day-to-day basis because we either have work in mind or business in mind, as opposed to like, oh man, you know so-and-so, or oh, we're the same high school, or whatever it was at the same time. Like, just these weird idiosyncrasies of human beings that we miss, or we miss their stories of who they are, where they came from. And I think that's like a perfect platform to do it. Come in and talk about it. I had a client one time, one of my first sales ever, super nice lady. The reason why she chose me as a realtor was she grew up like 10 minutes from my small hometown in Illinois. And so we sat and talked at an open house for like an hour just about funny things from back home and Kewanee Hog Days and like all this goofy stuff from the Midwest.
Wait, Kewanee Hog Days?
Kewanee Hog Days. She's from Kewanee, Illinois. I'm from Rock Island, Moline, Illinois. And there's a big, it's like a summer festival basically in Kewanee, but it's called Hog Days. So it's like the, what's it called, the rodeo where they have all the animals and stuff. They have
stock show?
Yeah, the stock show. It's like a stock show with pigs and stuff, but then it's also got like Ferris wheels and kids rides and stuff.
Perfect.
So we talked for an hour about Kewanee Hog Days. She ended up using me as a realtor. We bought a house for her. We helped her sell a house. It was awesome. In the middle of the first transaction, she invites me over for a Bears-Vikings football game. I said, hey, maybe let's do this second one of that season because the first one's real close to my birthday and I don't know if I'm going to be in town. We have the same exact birthday. both born November 29th. Like, so crazy. So just so many things, we miss out on because we view people as transactions, or where we're missing a lot of cool connections and stuff like that.
You know what would be great for the podcast is the two of us going to Kewanee Hog Days.
I think
absolutely blast.
I think riding your motorcycle, one bike, Dumb and Dumber style.
You and me. Yeah. Mary Sampson, right?
Yeah, Swami Sampson. Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you this. Have you thought of any potential names for said podcast that we're launching?
The two most obvious things about us that I think are really interesting is just that we're both gorgeous men, balded, bearded men. That's the only thing that I was thinking about, because we decided to do this like a week ago, and to be honest, my mental bandwidth around creating a podcast, I've always wanted to do it, just never had the time, and I was like, just put it on the calendar, let's just get it done. And maybe the whole podcast, we could just be trying to figure out what the name of it is, and that way no one could ever find it.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, we're going to have maybe 3 viewers anyways, probably me, you, Ari, and maybe both our moms.
Yeah.
So we could use that as our excuse for why we have no viewers, because we've never named a podcast and nobody can find it.
It's actually impossible to find.
It's the greatest podcast ever, but we're only releasing it to a certain handful of people every few weeks.
Here's what I'm going to say. I think that the name is going to come out. I'm going to make a prediction. I think the name is going to come out through this conversation, and we're just going to organically figure it out. Now, if you have an idea, feel free to throw it out, and I'll tell you I don't like it.
Here's a realistic one that I think we could workshop and get something good from. Little alliteration, the Guru and the Good Dude.
Ooh, okay, that was it.
I briefly ran past you because you're the real estate guru. You've been in real estate 10 years or so now. I'm the good dude that does like nice things, gives out scholarships.
You're like the asshole.
Yeah.
The asshole and the absolute shining star.
The asshole and the Catholic schoolboy didn't have as much alliteration as the guru and the good dude, so I thought that was a good one.
Guru and good dude's good. Yeah.
One that's not realistically in play, I just always thought it would be funny as shit to convince people that we were twin brothers, like you were Tim Warlow and I was Jim Warlow, and like just completely mess with people.
Oh my god, that would be funny too because my dad, I'm a junior by the way.
Oh, are you?
My dad's name is Tim Warlow Sr.
I did not know this.
He named me Tim Warlow Jr. and you Jim Warlow. My dad would be a sociopath.
That would be so funny.
He's like the one I like. And you.
Yeah. And like you're not even the oldest. Like it was me that should have been the junior, but he just hated me from birth, and I'm Jim instead of Tim.
You're older, and he's just like,
this guy's not carrying my name.
But you know, years of torture.
So the play on that, I was thinking, since we are beautiful balded men, would be the podcast we call The Warheads, since we're both last name Warlow and we both have bald heads, but
that is a stretch, man.
I didn't want people mistaking us for like decorated war veterans and like thinking we were like just stolen valor too.
Okay, so the guru and the good dude.
Yeah,
I like that, and I think there is definitely something.
It's something to work with.
There.
We can tie in again the small bit of real estate we want to put into the podcast, plus some feel good stories, plus just general banter. Do you? This is my first question for you. Do you listen to like non-business podcasts? Do you listen to
100%
these rambling type podcasts?
Oh yeah. So I listen to a lot of non-business podcasts. Actually, more. So when I first started my business as a full-time agent, and I left my past brokerage, I got really into podcasts. So I listened, and I didn't know anything about business.
Right.
I'll tell you, like the boutique brokerage that I was at didn't know anything about business.
Yeah.
And went bankrupt because of things that I was just like apparent to me were not kosher and like were not profitable. So I was like, well, I don't know anything about it because the only example I've had is somebody who had no idea what they were doing. And so I leaned really heavily on business podcasts. And the first ones were, I like Business Movers. I like How I Built This. How I Built This is by far my favorite business podcast. Of course, Think Like a CEO, Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, and really anything I could get my hands on. And then I kind of was like, I get this now. I really like this. I'm starting to know business more, and I got mentors, and so it didn't feel like I had to have podcasts too much. So now I listen to like Andrew Huberman a lot, which is a health podcast and science-based podcast, but he has some business in there. And then I still listen to How I Built This a lot, and then I listen to a lot of Kill Tony just for.
I listen to a ton of Kill Tony, dude. Okay,
I love Kill Tony.
I've had half this beer, so I'm gonna tell you this for the first time ever, and it's gonna be recorded. You probably already got it a lot. You sound even like William Montgomery.
Oh my god,
dude! Do you get that all the time?
No.
You don't? Nobody's ever told you that?
No one has ever told me that. And I ain't never gonna stop.
I love Kill Tony.
I really was gonna stop, but no. I ain't never gonna stop.
Nobody's ever told you that.
No, not really, but I do. I think after I started listening to him more, I got a lot more. I started obviously William Montgomery's like my favorite.
Oh, he's hilarious.
The Closer, it's brilliant.
He's so funny. I like him and Casey Rocket. I like those two guys a lot.
Rules. And I've been to Austin a few times, and I have not seen Kill Tony, but I've seen everybody separately.
Oh, really? You've seen all those guys? They just do stand-up sets? Oh,
yes.
Cool.
You can catch them at like the Creek in the Cave.
Yeah.
A couple other spots down there, Sunset. Amazing. So I love Kill Tony, the Kill Tony universe.
Wow, that's so good. I'm really glad you at least know who William Montgomery is. Cause like,
I do, and I use him as an example when I'm like, I make a joke where people will be like, you look just like this other guy with a beard and no hair. And I'll be like, is it William Montgomery? And I'll pull out my phone and be like, because that's what it feels like anytime somebody goes, you look like this guy I know. And then they'll show you a picture of like the most hideous person you've ever seen. And And I'll be like, and they'll be like, no, you look better than him. You just look like you guys can be twin brothers.
You do self-admittedly look like that guy from the new era Guess Who game. You were the one that introduced me to that. And you do look a lot like that guy. But a few times in team meetings, I've heard you say things, and I was like, man, he sounded like way Montgomery when he said that. I'm really glad you like Kill Tony, dude. I've just actually listened to my first like handful of the podcast. I see all the clips on social media and stuff, and it cracks me up. Plus, I think the idea of that is actually pretty cool. That Tony Hinchcliffe just basically blows people's career up. You know what I mean? Like he really launches people's stuff.
It's like American Idol for degenerates.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
It's awesome.
It takes a lot of guts to just do 1 minute of stand-up comedy.
I have about 40 pages of 1 minute jokes. When I'm preparing for the day.
Have you ever considered putting your name in the hat at Kill Tony and doing it? I think you have.
I think I want to do it, and every time I think about it, I get nervous, and I'm like, I might pass out.
I mean, it could be what's the old saying? No publicity is bad.
No bad publicity. Well,
yeah, no such thing as bad.
It could be terrible for my business. We'll see.
That's what I was thinking, because they usually ask people like what they do for a living and stuff. Yeah. And it's like, what if you're about to close like a $20 million deal and you just tell a terribly inappropriate 1 minute long joke?
Most of my jokes are really, really bad. And I'll have to basically have to quit my job in order to go on there. But, for the once in a lifetime opportunity to blow up my comedy career.
It would be awesome.
Which is non-existent at the moment.
Yeah.
It could be worth it.
Yeah, that's good. I'm not a podcast guy. Getting back to podcasts, the thing I listen to religiously technically isn't even a podcast. I just put it on Spotify, which is PTI. Mm-hmm. Pardon the interruption, with Tony Kornheiser, Michael Wilbon. Did you ever watch that show as a kid? What? No. Dude, it's been on for literally over 20 years. I think they just celebrated maybe the 20th year, so this 21st. It's just two old sports writers.
Mm-hmm.
They're sports writers.
I figured you were a sports guy. I'm not a sports guy.
Oh,
I
man.
like golf and MMA. And
that's it.
I will watch the Super Bowl, and that's it.
Yeah. Now, Wilbon and Kornheiser are legends, because they both started as writers. They started this TV gig, and I think it's kind of like this. They not started as a joke, but they didn't think it would last forever. And now it's become like the longest running sports show in ESPN history, or whatever it is. And it's really good. That's my just airtime, kill time. Have something on in the background. Those guys are good. The only business podcast I listen to is a plug for Keller Williams right now, which is that Millionaire Real Estate podcast, which is based off the book Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And I like that because it's just based on stories. And dude, it's crazy. You can, every guest on there, no matter where they're from, any part of the world, any part of the country, any city, no matter how big or small, they all have the same story, which is they started from nothing, they struggled in real estate, they kept at it, and then boom, something clicked, and it happened. I think when we focus on real estate on this podcast, I think I like to focus most on that, because it's
relatable.
Yeah, it's super relatable. And even for me as a newer person, coming to trainings here has always been great, because a lot of people were very transparent of their struggle. Yeah. So when I was struggling, I knew that was always a part of the game. I'm doing a bunch of work and not getting any results, or at least that's what it feels like. Yeah. But I knew in my head the whole time that's part of the process. Right. This is really part of it. So and so did it. So and so did it. So and so did it. Yeah. And they all were successful. And there really is it's like when you open the door and a big gust of wind blows in, it just happens all of a sudden. You take off, and I think that's what I love to focus on. Obviously, giving them tips and tricks to real estate as well, but
Well, I think that's a good segue into telling our stories.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Let's start with you, dude, because you've been in real estate for a while.
So I got licensed in 2013. I'll back up even a little bit more, okay? Let me start in high school.
Our dad, Tim Warlow Sr.
My dad. No. I mean, that is a good point, right? So I had zero idea of what real estate was.
Right, yeah.
My parents built a house in 1998 in Comfort, Texas. So we moved out there, and I lived in that house from second grade.
Comfort is directly west.
North.
Oh, north?
It is west.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
Like an hour,
of San Antonio.
Yeah. And built a house out there. We lived there past my senior year. Like, I went to college and they still lived there. So we didn't really buy and sell houses. I knew that in the early mid-2000s that we were having trouble selling our house because they were preparing to move. But yeah, that was my only interaction with real estate. I didn't even think that was a industry in any capacity. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I graduated in the top 10% of my class. I was really good at math, science, all that stuff.
What was the graduating number at Comfort?
It was about 75. So I was number 7. I was number 7.4.
You just squeaked in because, yeah, if you had told me there was only 9 kids in the class and you were top 10, I was like, I'm out of this podcast right now.
I'm out.
Yeah.
So the point being, I could have gone to any of the state schools and stuff.
Yeah.
My parents were like, if you go to UTSA, we'll take care of you, because it was really affordable, dude. You could $3,000 a semester
for UTSA.
For UTSA.
Oh wow!
Now it's probably doubled. It's about like $6,500.
God, that even still sounds cheap to me.
It is a lot cheaper than my alternative schools. Like, I had gotten into UT. And it would be $36,000 a year.
Right.
So I was like, do I really want to go into this? And what I decided to go into, because I didn't know what I wanted to do, which, maybe this is a terrible suggestion for people who don't know what they want to do, but I got a psychology degree, and I that's where I started. And I was kind of just, because I was like, well, if I don't know what to study, I'm going to study the brain.
Right, yeah.
And like, getting a psychology degree is like basically like staring into a mirror for 4 years, and you come out on the other side of it like more confused than ever.
Right.
So halfway through, I actually switched to neurobiology, and I wanted to do research. I've always been kind of like science oriented, just really enjoyed, just come from curiosity, like everything that I've done. So when I graduated, I worked as a researcher at the Army, and I worked as a researcher at UTSA for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
But I looked up and I was going to go get my PhD, and I was like, okay, how much do they make? $25,000 a year. While you're getting your PhD in neuroscience.
Okay.
Then after, your prospects are $60,000 a year, and I was like, that's not enough money for 8 more years of my life. And you probably had a similar story, but I was like, I don't want to live my whole life like not having a ceiling on what I can earn. Because I realized my time on this earth was really limited, and that if I spent all of my time trying to make money and work for a school and spend 60 hours a week on a campus and then take home $60,000, I was going to be miserable.
Right.
So I got a job in sales at Medtronic, which was like somewhat sciencey. And while I was there, my buddy had gotten his broker's license, and he was like, hey, I'll pay for you to get your license just because I think it'd be fun for you and I think you'd be good at it. And I was like, I don't know what that means.
Right.
What is a real estate license?
Right, yeah.
So I went through the classes anyway just to learn, and I liked it, and I was fortunate enough that I had 2 screens in my sales desk, and I would work on one and I would do my real estate on the other, and nobody seemed to care. So I got my license, I bought my first house, and I really liked the process. I thought it was really fun, and learned a lot about the finance side and all that stuff. So started doing real estate on the side, got a new job. I was an executive marketing and sales director for a diagnostics company that had a global footprint. So I was traveling every weekend to marketing shows. I was 24 years old, and I'm training these like 60-year-old people on how to sell. And I'm going into doctors' offices and hospitals, and I'm closing deals. And it's because I knew selling from Medtronic.
Right.
On the week after I would get off work, and on the weekends I would go sell real estate. And at the time, Zillow, you could buy an entire zip code on Zillow for $250. You get the whole zip code, 100%
for yourself.
For yourself.
Only yourself.
It would be shared with 3 other agents.
Right.
But you could get every single lead for a zip code for $250.
That's unreal.
So I did that for Bandera.
And this is what year-ish again?
2014.
2014, okay.
2013.
Okay.
Yeah. No, 2014, yeah. So I was doing that, and I was getting leads, and because I was kind of like a marketing executive, I had leeway to step out, make phone calls, like warm up leads and showings. And
right.
And
so you were double dipping.
I was double dipping, but I was good at both jobs.
Yeah,
I was able to keep it together. I was working open houses on the weekends, and everybody at work knew that I was a real estate agent, and they would use me.
Right, which is huge,
which was great. And nobody cared. Nobody cared that I was doing that. But I started making a good amount of money. I think my first year I did maybe just $10,000 in commission.
Right.
The second year, working full time, I did about $30,000 in commission. And I was
when you were working real estate full time, or you're still working?
No, I'm still working.
Right.
It was Stan Bio, and I was still working there, and I made almost not what I was making about $60,000-$70,000.
But you were pretty close.
But I was like halfway there, working 2 days a week.
Right.
I was like, this could be really good. So I made a plan to get out of that job and go full time in real estate. Lo and behold, my wife at the time was pregnant with my son, Kellen, and she was like 8 months pregnant, and it was November, and they called me in. Let me back up. This is kind of funny. So I was at a trade show, and they had this kind of executive guy come in, and he goes, "Hey Tim, what do you think is wrong with this?" With our business, like what do we need to fix? And I was like, well, business is too top heavy. There's too much management and there's not enough sales.
Yeah.
And he was like, tell me more. And I was like, well, it's also a top down problem because the leadership in this business doesn't convey their vision and their message to the people. And so there's this like gap between leadership and sales and everybody who's doing all this other work. And he was like, oh, that's really good insight. Then I got fired. Not fired, they laid me off because they were like, you know what, Tim was so right. We got to get rid of 60% of the leadership. So they fired 60%, especially in marketing and not in sales, but in marketing, which was where my job was. And everybody there was like, I can't believe like you were super good at this.
Right.
But in my head, I left work that day. They got rid of me, and I said, thank you. Because now I got unemployment while I went and built my freaking real estate
that's
business.
nice. Okay.
So that I had a severance. I had 6 months, and I mean, to be honest, it was terrifying. Right.
Right. Yeah, of course.
My wife was 4 weeks away from
Yep.
giving birth.
Yeah.
I lost my health insurance.
Yep.
So Cobra was $1,700 a month. I'm paying that so that we can just have our baby. And Cobra is medical insurance for unemployment. And I was getting maybe $1,200 a month for unemployment.
Right, it's not.
I was like really fortunate that I had made a good amount of money that year, had real estate.
Yeah.
And left that day, didn't even go home, went straight to the real estate office, and I was like, hey guys, guess what? I'm full time now. My son was born 4 weeks later.
What's his birthday?
December 2nd.
Oh, all right, dude. All right.
December 2nd.
I'm November 29th.
Oh, y'all are very
pretty close, yeah.
And I remember being in the hospital after she had given birth, and we were in the it was like you stay overnight 2 days while they adjust everything. Yeah. I'm literally in the corner writing contracts.
Dude, this is unreal. So many weird parallels, which I'm about to tell you about. Like, keep going. Yeah. This is crazy. This is so strange.
And that first year was really hard. Obviously, like having a newborn baby.
Oh yeah.
Which I'm sure you can relate to.
Yeah.
Having a new job and a career, and I wound up, I think, making about $60,000 after taxes and everything was like maybe like 40.
Yeah.
Which wasn't nearly what I was making before, but it was enough to get by.
Right.
And we wound up selling our house that we lived in at the time just for like extra money. And it took me about a year to get back on top. But that was 2015 into 2016.
Yep.
And every year since then, I've doubled my business.
Oh, that's disgusting.
It's disgusing.
That's so
crazy.
I
went from 50 to 100, 100 to 220, 220 to 330,
oh my
330 to 500, 500 to 800. It was like last year we did about 700K in commission.
Yeah.
But after 3 years of real estate, I was making more than the CEO of the company that fired me.
Yeah, and that's really crazy.
And then here we are. We're on track this year. I don't know if you did know this, but I just ran the numbers. We're on track to do about 1.2 million this year. In
gross commission. Gross. What was it? GCI? Gross commission income.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, it's humbling, and it's like, if you had told me that.
Oh yeah.
When I lost my job 8 years ago, I would have been like, "What are you talking about?"
That's so it. Okay, so weird. So before I forget.
So yes, let's do your story.
Well, let's not go through the whole thing per se, because I'm a mumbler. which the podcast will soon learn. And 2, I have such terrible short-term memory.
Okay.
But really weird, interesting parallels, because I didn't know pretty much any of that story. I didn't know any of that at all. Outside of like a little bit of the dabbling with sales and things like that in the medical field. I was a teacher forever. What's funny about high school, I had no career path whatsoever, no interest in anything. Once my 7-year-old dream of making it to the Major League Baseball ranks failed at 8 years old, I was pretty much out of ideas. But I got into education, and it was awesome, dude. Like, it was really cool. It was life changing. You know, I was like a 22-year-old kid graduating college, like a total goofball, super immature, and like the ironic thing is that the kids raised me just as much as I raised the kids. You know what I mean? So like I taught 5th grade in Ottawa, Illinois, when I was 22.
Is that like Canada?
Pretty much. It's the Canada of Illinois, people say. It's in the middle of Illinois. It's right in between my hometown and the city of Chicago. So it's like right on I-80. But anyways, I was just always going to be a teacher. There was like no way. I was already looking at like when I could retire. Like, okay, I'll be 59. I'll make like X amount of dollars per month once I retire. Like, there was no course changing whatsoever. I was going to teach forever. I didn't even want to do the corporate ladder of education where you become a counselor and a principal or whatever it was. So I was set with it. My last couple of years teaching, I was also coaching. So I coached like all the sports, basketball, football, track, soccer. And that was like money to me. Like, we were getting these extra stipends to coach. And I was like, this is great. This is the most money I've ever made as a teacher because I get these coaching stipends. Well, then my wife told me that she was pregnant. And so we were so excited, one, to be pregnant. We very poorly timed a Vegas trip that week. So she found out she was pregnant on a Monday, went to Vegas on a Friday, had this really quiet, low-key, non-Vegas style trip to Vegas. And dude, I got home and I was like, definitely not depressed, but I was sad going back to work because I saw for the first time ever how much time I was pouring into teaching and coaching, and like how much physical time, like leaving the house like 4 a.m, go to the gym, go to morning practice, do a day of school, go to afternoon practice or go to games, get home at 6:30, 7 o'clock, and I was like, man, this is okay right now, but I'm gone from the time a baby wakes up to a baby goes to sleep. And I was like,
you had that realization really quickly.
Right away.
Well, it's funny too, though, because most people who are in teaching like the schedule because they get summers off, right? Like, there's a thing about it where if you have kids, it's like, oh, well, I get to spend the summers with them. Yeah. But what about everything else?
Man, it's nuts. We'll do episode 2. We'll get way more beers and talk all about public education. Yeah. But that's was really just an eye-opening thing for me. And like, summers are never off for teachers. Like, they're always planning curriculum. They're always coaching camps. They're always doing summer school. I mean, it never ends.
It's a fallacy.
Yeah, it's a big time fallacy, and everybody does get paid the same. Like, I'm a non-believer in like the value of money, or like, I don't care if somebody makes $10 million or $10,000 a year. That's never been like my end goal. Like, I got to make X amount of dollars because everything was just set for me. I was on a salary schedule. Literally, I can tell you exactly what I was going to make next year. I can tell you what I was going to make the year after that.
But is there a certain level of comfort in that?
Well, yes, there definitely is. Like, switching to real estate, everybody's discomfort is there's no more salary. Everybody gets paid in education down here, at least, like the last Friday of every month. So I knew the last Friday of every month
That's why teachers are always out on the last Friday.
That's right. And then all the other Fridays, they're just milking the pennies to get what they can. But that's what's crazy is I've always lived paycheck to paycheck. Yeah. Even when I was teaching, I would get paid the last Friday of the month, and by the first of the next month, so sometimes the day later, my money was gone. Paid my mortgage, paid my rent, wherever I was living, my car payment, all that stuff went the first. And then it was like this 29-day grind of like, okay, can I get gas in my car? Am I going to put, I'm going to go visit my folks. I'll put it on my credit card. Like, it was just this vicious cycle of it. So it's a whole other story. But what's so weird about your story, and what's interesting about mine too, is I knew I wanted to get out of teaching when my wife told me she was pregnant, which is never what your pregnant wife wants to hear.
Right.
So I did it. I did online real estate school.
Well, how'd you find real estate? From
Troy here at the office, Troy Jasser. Yeah, Troy sold my first house. So I was actually tutoring when I was teaching, met a real estate agent. He bought a house for me. It was awesome. USDA loan. Like, I didn't know any of this stuff. I had no idea what financing was, nothing. I got a house for free. I put no money down. It was incredible. It's nuts. That's why I'm so passionate about, like, hey, you can buy a house for cheaper than you can rent your apartment for or rent your house for. So that was me. I met Troy through teaching. His wife's teacher, Troy's a former teacher. He sold my house for me. That's how I paid off my student debt, actually. All the proceeds from my house paid for my student debt. Otherwise, I'd still be in it if I was, a teacher. I'd still been out. Fast forward to I'm in real estate now. It's exactly 2 years ago now. I'm in Ignition here at the office. I just got my license 2 years ago. It was like June 4th or June 5th of 22. I'm sitting at Ignition. Erica's due September 29th. So I've got like 4 months to find my first piece of business, get my first paycheck. I still have like 3 teacher paychecks coming because I get paid through the summer for my contract. So I'm arrogant / overly optimistic, whatever it is, thinking like, dude, I have these 3 paychecks lined up. Surely I'll work my butt off. I'll find at least one client in the next 3 months. And I was super incorrect, dude. I was way incorrect. I worked so hard July, August, and then September, baby month rolls around. I'm doing all these open houses. I was doing like 24 to 30 open houses in a month. I was doing 6 a week. So I'm working, I'm out door knocking. It's 110 degrees down here. It's crazy. And just nothing. Well, September was really starting to pick up. I had all these like in real estate, like the nibbles of like open house guests or door knocking people. Right. And when you're young and you're starting, or when you're young in real estate, you're thinking like, oh, this person doesn't have a realtor. They came to my open house. Now I'm their agent. And that's not the way it works. It's just naivety or whatever. So anyways, I had met a client. I was taking them through the steps of getting qualified with a lender. I'm answering all their questions. This is like my slam dunk. They're going to buy this great house. I'm going to get this huge first paycheck basically right after my baby's born. Take away all the stress that we're having, all my wife's woes. We're in the hospital waiting to deliver that day, and I get one of those awful realtor texts, like the real long paragraph saying like, hey, my boyfriend's stepmother is a realtor. We're actually going to use her. We're going to do a new build. And we're sitting in the hospital, So you're sitting in the hospital typing contracts, and I'm sitting in the hospital like, hey, we're not getting paid again this month. And so it went on forever. I didn't get my first paycheck until December of that year. So Arthur was born September 30th. Didn't get my first paycheck until about December 30th.
How much was your first paycheck?
I can tell you almost exactly. It was in the 7,000s. It was 7,000 something. And like a super comical story is I would always get the notifications from my bank, like the text or the emails like, hey, your account has reached $0 or your account withdrew. It needs to be whatever. So I'd get those little pings on my phone or I'd see it on my email like all the time when I was teaching. Well, I had to come here to pick up my check because I didn't even know how to fill out a DA. Yeah. So the company just sent the check over here to get it. I got it. It was the biggest check I'd ever seen, $7,000. I was so freaking happy. I ran to my car to mobily deposit it. And the little ding pops up on my phone again, like the same ding that tells me like $0 left in your account. And I was like, what in the world is this? And I looked down and it says like it was over the limit for what you can mobily deposit. Yeah. You can only deposit so much. And I was like thinking, I bank at Wells Fargo. And I was like, man, obviously not true, but I was like, people at Wells Fargo must just be like calling each other like, you're not gonna believe who's trying to deposit too much money, and like the dude that we ding every month for not having any money is now trying to go over his limit, like he stole something, or it was just nuts. It was really
they're calling each other.
Yeah.
Hey, Zach Clark, that dude that owes us like 25 cents.
Yeah. The buzzers are going off at Wells Fargo, so that was like mind numbing. Like that was really crazy. And obviously, that's a lot of money, especially from teaching. And that was always my big takeaway. I tell people like that check right there should have been what I was getting paid the whole time when I taught. and my teaching check should be what I'm getting now.
Do this, a little shifty shift right there.
Perfect, right there. So,
where were we?
I think we were at, let's see, I had a potential client fall through the day my son was born, September 30th. No deals until end of that year, December 30th. And I think that was like my big, like, talking point was that real estate is so crazy. Like, I think everybody gets into it for all the...
Just in case we didn't get the story, will you back up real quick and tell the story of getting the notification from the office that you got?
Yes. I got my first paycheck December 30th, so we had gotten there. You asked how much it was. It was in the 7,000s. It was 7,000 something.
And just for reference, what was your average monthly check from teaching?
Well, I can tell you exactly. My net... So that 7,000 was like my gross. So I paid taxes, made like 5,000 something. My highest salary year at teaching and coaching with all my stipends and everything was like $4,000 to the penny. It was like $4,000.12. So I was making 48,000 net a year, my highest year after 11 years of teaching. So when this $7,000 check shows up, it's like, it's crazy, it's nuts. And so, I used to, as a teacher, living paycheck to paycheck, when I would get to the end of the month, I'd always get the dings and pings notifications in my email and on text of like, hey, your account's at zero, or you're under $100, or you've overdrafted, like we've moved money from your accounts. So I'm so pumped to get up here and get my check. I see how much it is. I'm just freaking out. Like, I'm so stoked. I was going to come talk to some folks in the office, but I was so excited and I was so nervous to have $7,000 in my hand that I ran to my car to mobile deposit it. So I'm taking the pictures and I think everything's good. I submit it and I get the ding from Wells Fargo. And I was like, what is this? Like, I'm rich right now. How can they be dinging me? And it was a ding saying that like the amount I was depositing was over the mobile deposit amount, which I've obviously never once encountered or even knew was possible. So I come running back in here with my uncashed check and I'm talking to everybody and they're like, oh, congrats on your first closing, you know, where'd you get it from, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, dude, I'm freaking out. I was like, I can't put this money in my bank. Like, what's happening right now? And so they're like, well, you either got to change your amount or you got to just be old school and drive it to the bank. So like, that was really eye-opening for me in terms of a lot of stuff you were touching on of like, you didn't want to do 8 more years of school and 8 more years of debt because it was all capped potential. That was your exact ceiling. And that's how I lived my whole career, which there's nothing wrong with that. Teaching still to this day will be like the most noble job that I've ever had. For as much as you can help people in real estate, you help your clients, you help all these other jobs, you help, inspectors, you help title companies, you help all these different people. But it will never have the impact that teaching does.
Sure.
But it was just so crazy to me to be totally cut loose from a leash of like, you're making X amount of dollars every last Friday of the month to be in this untapped world, basically.
I see a coaching opportunity because I see a mindset here. It's part of my job. But when you say that being in real estate will not have the same impact that teaching will.
Yeah.
And I think that the impact is just different. I think that you're thinking about it from the perspective of like helping your clients, right? Like, of course, we're fiduciaries, we do a good job, we help people make really big financial decisions.
Right.
I will say a lot of real estate agents really probably aren't equipped or good at that, right?
I would agree.
And teaching is the same way. There's probably a lot of teachers who shouldn't be teachers.
Yeah.
What I would say the biggest impact that we have as agents is actually in helping other people grow businesses.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Because of showing people the untapped potential of having a real estate license or adding in income or just seeing that the world is like this limitless place, people can change their lives forever. Yeah. And they don't have to run in this rat race where every single month they're getting overdrawn or they don't know how they're going to make it they don't know how they're going to drive to work for the next 7 days, much less put food on the table and do these things. And, I'll tell you, I grew up in a household where, my dad had wanted to be in business. He had a really bad experience that kind of like turned him off that. He has an MBA, but he's a physical therapist. Ever since then, he was always in this place, a similar place that you're talking about, and money was very, very much a scary topic in our household. And I think a lot of people relate to that, where it's like money is this limited thing.
For sure.
And unless you get into business, and it doesn't matter if it's real estate or it's you're in construction, or you have a pool company, or you run a restaurant, or whatever it is, you don't see that creating money and creating value is like unlimited.
Right.
And I think that there's so many people who are just like me, like trapped in these jobs where, maybe you get, like at Medtronic, for instance, you'd have a college degree to get this job. It's an entry-level position. Base salary was $32,000 a year, plus the potential to cap out at a $2,500 a quarter bonus.
Yeah.
And I left there, and I was like, they asked me what they could do to make me or keep me, and I was like, you could pay me $60,000 a year. I'm like, that's not even that much money.
Right.
I mean, you guys are using and abusing these people who are just like me, who are putting in 40 hours plus overtime and making you guys millions and millions of dollars, and you're paying us freaking pennies.
Right.
I was like, where that's not the case is when you run your own business and you run real estate. And so there's a lot of these small businesses, real estate, insurance, life insurance. There's a couple different kind of sales-based businesses you can run that have unlimited earning potential, where you can help people, and maybe it's not exactly the same as like teaching and changing and shaping kids' minds.
Yeah.
But you can impact a lot of lives like that.
Yeah, there's a big ripple effect, and I guess I was the most guilty of like bashing realtors before I was in real estate. Like I totally I had them pegged as, no offense to car salespeople, like I assume the process was that same way, that like we tried to negotiate something, they took it to some back manager, they were still getting the better of the deal, and whatever it was. I just assumed I was always getting screwed in a sales process.
Yeah.
And that was just my mindset of it. So like there was never even the idea of like, yes, I'll become a real estate agent. That seems like a noble switch from teaching the youth to real estate. But thankfully, I mean, truthfully, again, here's another plug for Keller Williams. Like coming to City View and being just literally bombarded with the culture of kindness, of giving from contribution with nothing expect in return.
Right.
It was everything that teaching was and should be to an extent.
Yeah.
But in a different, literally a different career field.
Sure.
And so it's been really crazy to see how much you are able to help just your clients. I mean, just even in this 2 years of real estate, how much money I've saved for people or made for people. And it's like, man, that's like pretty life-changing money,
Well, I see kind of a circle back to something you talked about, which was when you made the switch from real estate, or from teaching to real estate, it wasn't because of the money. It was because of the time.
Right, yeah.
It was because you looked at your career, and similarly, when I was in my career and I was traveling 3 or 4 days a week, every week, I saw the same thing. I was like, I'm not working 40 hours a week. I'm working like 140 hours a week.
Yeah, with drive
I'm sleeping in
time.
hotels.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I'm out of town, I'm not getting paid for that. I'm still making a salary.
Right.
And I was out of town every other week. And when you're young, it's kind of like fun. You go out, go out to eat and drink or whatever. But when you start to get to this point in your life where you're like, I really want to be home. I have a family. I like kids.
Right.
That's not a lifestyle that works for everybody. So being in the business we are in now, I'm able to balance so much where like my son started coming to work with me when he was like 3 years old.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
My
son from when he was like 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah. I would bring him with me to meetings. He'd sit at lunch with us. He'd hear the conversations that we're having. And, he knows so much more about real estate and business than I'm pretty much like, if I was working another job and I had a boss to report to, that wouldn't be the case.
Yeah.
So there's all these like additional benefits that come with it. But I think ultimately the point is like you get your time back.
Yeah.
And or at least to a certain extent. There's definitely times where you feel like you're kind of compelled to help somebody or do something at 7, 8, 9 p.m. But for the most part, the life balance is, I would say, much better, especially once you get over that hump the first
Oh yeah, that's the thing is if you can get through that first, I would say now 6 or 7 months. You know, people say you want to sail in your first 3 months, whatever it is, but I mean, most realistically, like if you can stay consistent, if you really kind of going back to what you said about building your business or whatever, like it's just like any other business. But what's so misconstrued about real estate is like people think we work like an hour a day. You know, we go to a closing, get a huge paycheck for doing no work, and like that's not at all the case. Like it's a full day, and when you're starting, it's just like any other business. Like if you were starting a clothing line or a shoe brand or whatever the business was, you'd be working, 16-hour days. You'd be working 16, 17 hours. You'd be on the phone. You'd be talking to people you knew. You'd be networking. You'd be doing all this stuff. Otherwise, your business is gonna get off the ground. And like, I think people come into real estate and just think like, at least sign up this guy. Yeah, and I think that was also the big thing too was, for me, I felt like there was this weird, I thought I missed my window because I'd be reaching out to my friends and family and say, hey, I'm in real estate now, like, I'm the same guy.
Exactly, just bought.
Every time, dude, every time. It's this weird thing. I was like, what? I didn't see this, but it's because you're not paying attention to it, So I was like, man, maybe I missed my window, my friends and my family. And so it was weird. And I also think that, like a big misconception, we should do a whole nother episode on misconceptions of the new agent.
Sure.
Is they think like just getting a real estate license, they assume that their friends and family are going to buy from them.
Yeah.
And that's not the case, man. I had a lot of friends that were buying with other people, and it was because I was inexperienced. It's the biggest purchase of your whole life that you're making.
Right.
So if I was in their shoes, like, geez, I really like Tim. Tim's a good guy. I used to teach with him, but man, I don't know if he knows anything about real estate. You got to kind of prove yourself before people start to believe in you.
I think there's a certain extent to that is true. I will say that one of the biggest surprises of my career is the people that did put faith in me.
Yeah.
And there were certainly people who didn't, who moved on and worked with somebody else. But I will tell you, like, I was a part of the story I left out was that all through college I worked as a waiter at a brewery in Bernie called the Dodging Duck. And my very first clients that asked me to sell their house were people who I waited on.
Yeah.
And when they found out, because we were friends through Facebook and I would post a lot of stuff about what I was working on and things I was trying to do, my very first listing was from a patron at the restaurant that I waited on. And they were just like, we just love this guy. We just implicitly trust him. He may not know shit about real estate.
Right.
We're gonna give him a shot. Yeah. And I did sell their freaking house and we did get through it and they bought another house with me. And, I was forever grateful, especially in the beginning of my career, the people that trusted me with that. And I will never forget. So year 2 of my career, going full time. So I was probably 4.5 years into it. My wife's brother's wife's mom that I met a couple times trusted me to help them buy a $2.5 million house.
Oh God!
And I was literally in the middle of kind of the worst transition ever. When I left that brokerage that I was at, they tried to snake me over so many things, and like I had a really bad falling out over there. Because, like I said, they were really mismanaged. They were really desperate.
They didn't know what they were doing. Money. Yeah.
And my last deal I did with them, that really was the nail in the coffin, was this one that was $2.5 million. And I remember getting that check for, it was $65,000.
Right. Yeah.
It was my entire salary.
$5,000 bonus.
Plus $5,000 from the past job that I was at in one paycheck. Yeah. And I was like, see ya. Cashing this check and I'm out of here. And that like gave me the opportunity to go to Keller Williams and learn how to do it the right way. And like, it really changed. That changed my trajectory of my life.
Yep.
If I hadn't had that one opportunity from these people that just trusted me because we were family or because, that might have been the only thing, was that it felt like we were family. And I'll just never forget that. I'll never stop being grateful for that opportunity, and those people that did put faith in me.
I totally agree. It's weird because when you're teaching, you just automatically love 30 strangers that are in your classroom. Like, yeah, I'll take care of these kids like they're my own. I will pour into you. I'll do all this stuff. It's really nice and fuzzy and warm and great. Yeah. But I feel that coming the opposite direction when people did call me. Like my first 3 transactions, open house lead, so as a stranger, and I just remember telling them like, hey, this is my first transaction. I know I shouldn't be telling you this, but like I'm gonna treat you like gold. I'm gonna take care of everything. Thank you for trusting me. This is gonna go great.
Yeah.
Did, thankfully. Second one was a referral from a former librarian that I used to work with. And third one was our best friends that were buying an investment property. And I just told all 3 of them, like, dude, this is, it like gives me chills thinking about it. Like, you don't know what this means for me. This is literally how I feed my family. It's how I'm going to survive in this business. It's how I'm going to do all this. Yeah. I'll never forget it. Like, I owe you forever because if I didn't have those first 3 transactions, I don't get my next 3 and my next 3 and my next 3.
You were going back to teaching.
Oh yeah, heck yeah. I was pretty close to being out of money, and my wife with a newborn son was about to tell me like, hop back into that $48,000 a year. Let's wrap this up with some rapid fire questions for each other, which we don't have scheduled. I'll go first. Curiosity question. How did you get your son's name, Kellen? Where does that come from? Family? You liked it? Any cool meaning behind it?
Yeah, so my best friend from when I was working at the restaurant, his name was Kellen.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a world traveler, and he was teaching English over in China.
Nice.
He moved over to Poland. And the July of that year, which was obviously a very difficult year anyway because I lost my job that year.
Yeah.
He was supposed to come home. He wound up dying tragically in Poland.
God.
And it was really, really traumatic. And we didn't know what we were going to name our son at the time.
Right.
And kind of just to honor him, it was just like instantly, I was like, I have to name him after my friend. And, and so my son knows a lot of the stories about him and the things that we had together. But it's a really, Kellen's full name is Kellen Odell Warlow. So the Odell is not Odell Beckham Jr.
I lost the fantasy football league that year.
But yeah, the Kellen part is my best friend. He passed away in 2015, and then Odell was just because. Oh, it was actually because of Odell Brewery, and it just sounded good, but it just made sense. But,
is Odell Brewery? Is that in Colorado?
It's in
It's in Fort Collins. My uncle's live in Fort Collins.
Yeah,
I've been there. That's crazy.
It was great. It just sounded good and Irish, and my son wound up having red hair, so it worked out.
Yeah, that's a super great name, and sorry to hear about your best friend, dude. That's a tough story, but that's an awesome way to honor him, man. That's a great thing. All right, rapid fire question. What do you got?
Oh my god.
Think quick, dude.
What's your favorite taco place in San Antonio?
Oh man, that's an awful question. It's an awful question because I have terrible taste in food. Terrible taste. Best taco place, if I was going to get a taco right now, I would go to this we're going to lose all 3 of our podcast listeners here if I say this answer. Dude.
Can't be wrong. Unless it's Taco Cabana.
Oh, it's not Taco Cabana. They have great margaritas though. I think we kept Taco Cabana afloat during the...
Taco Cabana has wine-based margaritas.
Dude, no.
You're a lightweight.
No, in COVID, you could drive through Taco Cabana and they would give you the shots.
Oh, really?
They would give you the bottles, yes.
Oh, shit.
Because my wife and I would always say, like, let's go support local during the COVID thing. And we'd, like, go and everybody would be closed. And Taco Cabana would be open, so we get, like, a 4-pack of margaritas. And they couldn't legally pour the alcohol in, so they would just give us the tequila.
You know who else did that? Was Hot Joy.
I love Hot Joy.
During COVID, Hot Joy, they are moving up by the Pearl.
Mm-hmm.
But during COVID, they had this family pack meal that came with like tiki drinks and like it was the most food I've ever seen to go. And it was like appetizer, food for 4 people, and drinks for 4 people for like $60. It was mind blowing.
Dude, that's insane. That's nice.
Anyway.
Here's my answer. Here's my answer. This is not the correct answer. I don't even eat tacos when I go out. I get like enchiladas or all sorts of other stuff. I'm gonna just go with Tito's in Southtown just for the location. I freaking love
Tito's is good.
Tito's is right by Friendly Spots, right down Alamo Street.
Have you been to the new Rosario's?
Yeah, we do love. I was gonna say Rosario's too, but I don't think I've ever actually. I've legit never had tacos.
I've never had tacos. Their enchiladas suizas are the best.
Yeah, we get enchiladas from them. That's the thing. I'm an enchilada guy. Have you been to the rooftop though?
Oh yeah,
that's what's we've only ever been with Arthur, and he's not 25 or older, so we can't get up top. So we're just looking down like
put a glasses and mustache on it. Nah, dude, he's good.
No, he's fine. He's had a lot to drink. He can't walk. He's
wasted. And also, he's a midget. Don't say anything. He's very sensitive.
Don't say anything to him. Get him a drink and call it good. All right, last 2 rapid fire questions. Let me think here for a second. If real estate dissolved, real estate was not a profession, what would you get into? And I'm going to take away sales as well. Like you can do anything sales related. You had to have another capped job.
The practical answer would be that I would just be an investor full time.
Right.
That's what I would do anyway. But the impractical answer, which is probably the fun one that you're looking for, is that I would open a recording studio, which is the least profitable thing you could possibly do.
Is it not profitable?
Not profitable.
No?
Very, very not profitable.
So you set up a studio like this, people would come in and record songs on it, basically?
Oh yeah, no, I would be like a recording engineer and like producer.
Legit. So you'd have like a studio behind this room.
I'd have a studio behind the room. I would make beats, and I would record people's tracks, and I would tell them, that's good or that's trash. Go do it again.
You'd be American Idol, all 3 judges.
Yeah, I know. Nah, that's a no for me, dog. Yeah.
I like it. All right.
Wait, one more for you, right?
Yeah, one more question.
That was a good question, though. I think that's a good one. I don't want to just steal your idea. What would you do?
Career? If real estate dissolved,
wasn't working out.
I can't go back to teaching. Let's take that off the table. I did love teaching. Teaching was an awesome job. I really liked teaching. Man, if I could do something, I think I would be a writer of some kind.
Yeah?
Yeah. I would give into peer pressure. A lot of people told me to write a book, which I know would suck because a lot of people told me to do it, but I think I would get into something if I could follow, not even necessarily sports. Sports would be, I think, the easiest, but if I could get into writing or journaling, I think that's an unexplored potential good gig. It sounds super peaceful too, right? Like a writer. Like that sounds peaceful.
You've read my book, right?
Your book? I haven't had a copy yet.
You can get it on Amazon. It's called Start, Move, Grow.
Go to Blanco, drink beer, and buy this guy's book.
Hey, well, that was good. That was a good first episode of, I guess we're just going to call it The Guru and the Good Guy.
Let's go with, Guru and the Good Dude. Because Goo and Dude have the same...
Guru and the Good Dude.
Guru and the Good Dude? Is that too much? Yeah, let's call it that.
That's it.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
That's a wrap.
Episode 1.
Hey, congratulations on that big deal.
Dude, that was good. That was honestly a lot of fun. If nothing else, this can be our thing.